What's your name, Wastelander?
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week I checked out Once Upon a Time in the Wasteland, and this 2022 movie was directed by Connor von Kuzing and stars Nick Bay, Dina Ingley, and Sarah Brink, among others, of course. So what is the story of Once Upon a Time in the Wasteland? Well, this, of course, takes place in apocalyptic wasteland, I assume, formerly the USA. And with this one, it's about a bounty hunter, and he has to go get this bounty for this girl gang, and it's another, woman that he has to capture and, bring back to them. And she has joined another gang, and so he has to kind of get her away from them and then, take her hostage and then actually take her back all the way to the girl gang. And of course, the other gang is now, chasing him, and he runs into other bounty hunters along the way who are also looking for this bounty. And so it's all just kind of one big, bounty hunter in the wasteland movie. What will happen though? Well, for that, you gotta watch the movie and find out. All right, so let's discuss this movie. Well, with this one, I watched it kind of late at night. I actually had, enough time to watch a full-length movie, but I guess I was given too many options. I couldn't find one that I thought was going to be good for the channel. I did find one. What was it? It was Miss Castaway and something like that. And it looked really bad, and so I thought I could do that one. But I don't know, it didn't really speak to me in the first 5 minutes. So I, started looking for a new one, and I just had so many choices there on Tubi and, elsewhere on the internet. And so I found this one on Tubi, and it was just a 50-minute one. So by the time I actually decided to press play, I was like, oh, that's the perfect amount of time for me. And so it is a short film. It's just 50 minutes, and that has some advantages to it, especially with a low budget thing like this. The budget being what it is, they don't have, much to work with. They're just walking around, a field or a forest or something like that. And so very rarely are they actually inside. And I don't know, it certainly has a low budget appeal to it, and certainly a low budget charm. Like with low budget movies, what really makes them is the story, the characters. Sometimes the acting is fun and stuff like that. But this one, I would say, has an interesting story. It's fun to see them walk around the wasteland, even if it's just kind of like, what a cowboy would be doing back in, whatever year it was. But at the same time, this being the wasteland just gives it that extra, piece of interest. I've also been playing a video game where, you're walking around the wasteland. So that kind of works in my favor, I guess, or it was something that kind of interested me. And so it was an interesting kind of world to go into. And then ultimately, the story. The story is fun. It's just a simple story. Go hunt down your bounty and then bring them back and get the money. But it has some twists and turns. It has different characters. And that's also another thing that I enjoyed. The characters are pretty good. And I liked some of the side characters. They have one bounty hunter called Dollface, and she shows up and just does a quick duel, or pistol duel with the main character. And the gang that is chasing them has a very kind of interesting leader, and he's a lot of fun. The hostage herself is a lot of fun. The main character, I would say he gets funner as it goes along. At the beginning, I'll probably talk about it later, I was not too into him, but by the end, I was really into this story. I think that kind of, as long as you're willing to get through the first 20 minutes, it really gets your attention. You really want these guys, and they actually start to become friends and show some humility and things like that. So overall, it's a fun 50-minute watch, something you can just put on, especially if you're just looking for something to get you to bedtime or whatnot. This is a fun one. Other than that, I was blown away by the shooting of this one, and I mean kind of more the cinematography of this one, because every shot is just so beautiful, so well done. And even if it's not a beautiful shot, it's like a close-up in kind of that, old spaghetti western style. And I do enjoy spaghetti westerns, but they're hard to come by, I would say, at least the ones that, I enjoy that aren't, too talky. But this one has just the right amount of it, and lots of close-ups on people's faces. And then there's ones where they're, in the distance and the moon is behind them. And oh my gosh, I actually think I made a note of it, oh, this shot's beautiful or whatever. And so I'm probably, playing it right now. But lots of beautiful shooting in this one. And I was really just loving what I was seeing, just kind of the craft that went into the cinematography of it. Man, I enjoyed that aspect, certainly as, a film lover. Also, with this one, I did enjoy the score. It's kind of an interesting audience experience with the music because sometimes it's just silent and that's wonderful at those times, and then there's music at other times and stings and whatnot, and they're wonderful at those times. And so this movie certainly has a balance between silence and music and knows when to use the silence effectively, and that just adds something else to the viewing experience. And with this movie being only 50 minutes, the story is quite fast, and I do appreciate that, especially with low budget movies where it's just people talking and stuff. They can talk forever in a room, right? So this one being 50 minutes, they get to the punch quite quickly. So that is certainly good as well. And I think that brings me to what doesn't work with this movie. Well, I think the main character was kind of the biggest hurdle going into it. He just didn't really appeal to me. I think the problem is he might be a little bit miscast. He just seems like a regular modern guy, kind of like me, goes to the gym once a week, so still has a little bit of, chub, and I don't know, just seems like he's kind of a big nerd in this wasteland. And so it just didn't seem like he's a hardened wastelander out there, doing these bounties and stuff. And by the end, though, I was into him, truthfully. I did get to know him as, the character develops and stuff like that. But in the beginning, he's just not part of a wasteland. He just doesn't fit into the wasteland kind of aesthetics, as well as the whole feel that the rest of the wasteland has. And then his voice as well. Everything is kind of ADR'd in this one. And that's also an issue as well. Not as much with the other characters, but at least with the main character, his voice just doesn't match his body as well. And it's just what is going on with this main character, the one that we're supposed to be rooting for? You just take a while, I guess, to really get into him. That could have been such a good part in someone else's hands. But with this one, they've chosen this actor for, whatever quality they think is good. But it just kind of comes across as a mismatch, I would say, for the audience. And once you can get over that, it's fine. But it's just, that is the initial hurdle that might be, kind of holding you back from getting really into it. But just know, eventually I did, and, so might you. And so would I recommend this movie? I would say sure. It's a short one. It's only 50 minutes. It's a lot of fun. If you like cowboy movies, this is fun. If you like Wasteland or Apocalypse, this is a great one. I've been playing a video game called Arc Raider, and it's kind of similar to that. So if you're into that, you might want to check this out. It's also free on Tubi, so if you want to watch it, go press play over there. And I would say it's just, a fun little short film for you to enjoy. And as for a rating, well, I have to give it the above average score of 6. And with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.